of the ones from long ago. There's an evil that's been dreaming, but now it's softly screaming. From the darkness, their power will grow. Their voices are made of poison. When you listen, you are sure to be disturbed. You can lock your doors. You can say your prayers. No creature can resist their wicked words. Never mind, no need to worry. That's all just a story of the whispers of the old gods.
Welcome back, everybody, after this short half-an-hour break to the StarLadder I-League Season 2. My name is Nimsh, I'm here with Noxious. The time flies, man. The time flies. I felt like it was 5 minutes, and suddenly,
It's been a while. It feels like it's been a while to me, just because I wanted to see Firebat's decks again and how they're going to fare up against DrHippi. Because one of the things that Pavel had going against him was how greedy his decks were and how much Firebat's lineup abused that. And given that it is Conquest, of course, if you stack more of the same types of decks, then eventually they're going to have one bad matchup. They can't win with it, and you just roll them over with the combo. So it's just about seeing whether DrHippi's balance when it comes to the greediness of the decks is a bit towards the mid-range side to where it can put pressure at least a little bit.
So Dr. Boom was not balanced, and DrHippi is hopefully balanced with his deck choices.
Yes.
Yeah, but honestly, like when I look at his lineup, like the first thing that comes to mind, like he has aggressive Shaman, so that's probably a win versus Firebat's lineup, and then he has this aggressive Zoo, that's probably a win as well. So 2 wins there. The problem is, what of the other decks? Because, Warrior is possibly getting banned, even though it's not the Control Warrior, it's a Tempo one. But it is the only deck in his lineup that can get over 30 points of health. So what's left for DrHippi? He's also running Rogue and Mage.
And Mage as well, yeah. I mean, the Mage is just a standard freeze, so it'll come down to whoever gets the combo first, which is why I think DrHippi is more equipped to handle Firebat's decks. But one of the things, too, is that the Tempo Warrior, I don't know if it lines up too well against, say, the Priest, right? Like, the Priest and the Dragon Warlock from Firebat, both are really good against it. Maybe it's good against a Worgen, play that Firebat might bring out, because it will typically not be able to burst you down. So there's a chance that the Warrior doesn't get banned, assuming he doesn't count on his Freeze Mage to win. I think it's going to be a situation finally where Firebat's lineup will be either strong or weak on the basis of mind games, more so than just, well, I'm guaranteed to sweep because his entire lineup is greedy.
Yeah, I think this is a totally different situation than we had with Pavel, because from Pavel's lineup, Paladin, Control Priest, and Reno Warlock, it seemed like they don't have a chance versus those combo decks from Firebat. And with Hippie, he doesn't run any of those decks. He has this this Rogue as well that can win. So Firebat banned Shaman. Shaman being the default win almost versus his lineup, and his Priest is getting banned. Unfortunately, man, because I wanted to see Veil and Embrace the Shadow again.
Yeah, one of the things that this Priest ban does for DrHippi is guarantee that, assuming his Warrior doesn't get banned, which is very likely given the fact that it's not Control Warrior, then at least the Priest, which would dominate the Warrior, is gone. Because that Priest seems like it should be able to win the Zoo and the Warrior matchup way too frequently, possibly the Shaman if that hadn't been banned. So I think DrHippi's game plan here was correct. The only drawback is, well, Firebat does not want to lose to Shaman this time, so he removed it from the lineup, and I think that goes against Hippie's plan.
So let's look at Hippie's lineup as well. And in Conquest, you have to look at the deck that cannot win versus the lineup of your opponent. Is there a deck that looks like the weak link that will never be able to win versus this lineup?
Never be able to win, I think, is a big stretch. I would venture to say that the Tempo Warrior, I think, is the weaker link for DrHippi right now, based on the way that the decks play out for Firebat. So it might be a matter of trying to queue up with it immediately and hope that you can steal a win with it, because it should be the last bastion of. It should be the biggest problem you're going to run with, I think.
Interesting. He does run Armor Smith, but I do agree with you that this is more of a tempo deck than something that can actually gain an insane amount of armor, because you need the board to be able to get it, and you don't even have the patrons. So he does queue that deck to start with, and then Firebat is queuing a deck that we haven't seen today. We've seen it yesterday. This is the Control Warrior with the Worgen combo, and Raging Worgen comes to the hand already.
Right, so the idea here, for those of you who may not be familiar with the deck, is that you play it with Charged and Inner Rage, and you just go face for as much damage as you can stack in one character in one minion. No faceless shenanigans, just straight up one guy punching you in the face very hard.
Well, I think
it's a good inclusion, but you don't need it, definitely.
Yeah, it's like if you want to go over 30, you probably need the faceless.
Yes.
But most of the time, you just you're happy with Worgen and Inner Rage and Charge.
Yeah. So this is a very good opener for DrHippi, because without Death's Bite in the metagame, these 4 health minions coming from the Temple Warrior are really tricky. But Firebat's list, being a more control-based one, will be running Brawl, possibly 2 of them. And that means that even if you do get on board, you might not stay there for very long.
Definitely. So Firebat's plan will be to survive till he gets all the combo parts, and he already has the Worgen and the Charge. Then he will try to kill DrHippi in one big attack. DrHippi can gain some armor to be able to maybe escape the range. But what's the range? Like if we count Worgen, Charge, Inner Rage, that's +2 and
that's 16.
3.
Yeah.
That's 16 with 2 attacks. So basically with faceless, that will be 32.
Yes.
So you need to keep yourself at 34, 40 possibly overall.
Well, one of the things that needs to happen is you need to figure out whether or not this guy is running Rampages or if he's running the Faceless instead. Because one of the things is that Rampage does is it clogs up your deck with 2 slots, right, that you use up for it. Whereas when you play the Faceless, it's just 1 slot, leaving you more room for removal, which can in many spots be a lot better. Now, this is a great setup by DrHippi we didn't talk about, but pinging his own Armor Smith to get minions on the board for turn 5, where he has a total of 3 damage targets, 4 Battle Rage.
Yeah, that's a really good one. He'll be able to draw the cards which are necessary to stay in the game versus this kind of deck. And he is probably expecting Brawl. He's hoping there is no Brawl, but he wants to kill Firebat as fast as possible. And, after Brawl, still Frauding can survive, and that might be a troublesome card. But there is a Coin Execute as well.
Yeah, I think he's going to have to hope the Frauding doesn't come out. You don't really want to use up your coin here. It's not something that is too important for you. This, however, is likely one of the better outcomes.
Yeah, I do agree. This is weird, though, but it is, because he is at 36, and Firebat has limited damage. He will need to do something else, unless he's actually running double Faceless.
I'll say something here. DrHippi's Fire War Axe draw gives him so much pressure. I mean, his opener was great. He curved out very nicely, and look at that. Just on the back of the draw that he picked up, he can start pushing even more damage to Firebat. If that pulls out a Fire War Axe, this is great. Unlike something like a Reno Jackson list, there is no reset button in a Control Warrior list.
Yeah, you just take the damage like a man, and you obviously need to needed to do some cuts in the deck. So this is not a full Control Warrior. You are running those combo cards. So I'm not sure if he's running Shield Block and Shield Slam in the list. Like, he might have made the choice to not include those cards.
Shield Block is great just because it cycles in the deck. Very often you'll find that Control Warriors, the combo warriors, that is, will run Shield Block just because it at least replaces itself. The things that don't make their way in the list usually can be stuff like Bash, where, yes, it kills something, but, that's a card disadvantage, and you're looking to assemble combo pieces as opposed to playing the long game.
There is the No Mission Venture again, a card that sees a lot of play from Firebat's perspective.
Well, combo decks, right? More card draw just before Ragnarok's turn comes in. This is devastating.
More armor as well.
Yeah, you might as well play that other Armor Smith. Unless you want to keep a Korkon alive and execute, but...
I think you're probably already feeling quite good, and you definitely need to kill the 5/4 because you cannot have another tick. Like, even with one tick of Thorison, some crazy stuff can happen. He's not valuing his life that much, but he does have double Armor Smith, so he just needs to be outside of the range. And the range was, we mentioned, 32, right? That was at least with one Faceless.
Right, but we're still talking about an unlikely scenario in a spot like this one, because even assuming that you are out of range, that Firebat, has the combo, he needs the mana, he needs the cards, and you need to have nothing on board for him to deal with. And because of the way that this game is panned out, DrHippi's just been on the initiative for all game.
Yeah.
And look at this awkward setup.
Giving your opponent life.
Well, there's really not much of a choice, and this is what I love about this type of deck, is that it's able to put the pressure on, and even though Tempo Warrior looked like a weak link, it might be able to steal a win.
Yeah, the game is far from over still, and even though DrHippi has 39, Firebat does have that combo in the deck, he still fails to find the Faceless, though.
But he's got a full board clear, and he's going to get himself some armor in the process, so there is no insta-kill coming from Hippie, even with a Fire War Axe to face and a lucky Ragnaros hit. And now he's thinking, do I execute this and die and take the 33% on Rag? It's one or the other. And he kills it last time.
Yeah, I kind of like it. You can also die to just Grommash attack if there is an inner rage, but DrHippi, like, not even inner rage this turn because this deck normally doesn't run it, but Grommash with Whirlwind or Blood to Ichor next turn is 10 damage, and the weapon is 3 more. So if Corcoran connects to face, you are actually in range of Grommash in 2 turns.
Right. Which is a bit of bad news for Firebat here. He's hoping that this doesn't go.
Whoops.
Well, exactly where it went. Another charge in the deck. I have to wonder, is there a Frost Giant in that list?
Like, if you're running double charge and Faceless, you might actually squeeze in a Frost Giant maybe as well, because you are life tapping. You're hero powering a lot.
Oh, not enough mana for the Faceless, but this would have been a great coin flip chance.
Let's count the damage, though, because right now it adds up to 40, I believe, right? Because we have charge, so it's...
Yes.
40, right? 40 damage.
Well, there's no enabler yet within a rage, so...
Oh, there is no inner rage still. Okay.
Yeah, there's no enabler for Worgen just yet. It's going to take a little bit longer to get there.
Unless he actually draws into inner rage, and he will have enough. Will be enough mana, though. Not enough mana because it's 5.
He's got 12 health, and honestly, I think at 12, you're safe against most things from the opponent, on this exact turn at least.
I was counting if he will be able to cast like double charge on the Worgen and then Faceless, but basically Worgen 1 charge and Faceless is 9 mana, so
yeah,
still 32.
You are really looking to get like usually the way that this deck used to work was it used Death's Bite as the enabler, and that made a lot of sense, right? Because it was so simple to enable the Worgen without relying on inner rage in the worst case scenario.
Well, Firebat still has some time, and even though there is Varian Rin, there is an inner rage now.
Well, you've got to deal with that Taunter, though. And there's Bloodhoof Braves left in the deck. That's a lot of taunts to remove.
Well, Fire War Axe can also give you some extra damage for the next turn, so suddenly 35 is the number you can deal. If you get a second inner rage, that can work as well.
Okay. I was going to say, any type of minion play from DrHippi would put you in trouble, since you don't really have that much in the way of removing a board. But look at that. Varian Rin comes out, even if it picks up double Bloodhoof Brave with minions. The Brawl is there to answer it. Malkorok. And the Rat
no Bloodhoof Brave. So now if he doesn't attack into 2/4, I think that's it. No, that's it anyway, right? Because it was 32 plus 3, so he didn't have
he's got the fact that he's got the War Axe equipped is exactly what he wanted here. Usually Death's Bite accomplished this role, but in this case it's not going to be necessary.
Oh my goodness.
Welcome to your new meta game, ladies and gentlemen.
So you're
Enjoy
not
your
safe
stay.
at 35.
Never safe.
Never save Baby Rage.
I mean, I don't even know what to say at this point. It's just really unfortunate for DrHippi. Man, this Baby Rage is real. I think DrHippi's the one crying from the bottom of his heart. Welcome to Brokeback Town. You thought Combo Druid was bad. You haven't seen the last of it.
Yeah. It's and like the best part, or like the worst part, is that he actually was above 30 health, where most of the decks, most of the classes, they cannot even get that far.
Right. I think one of the turns that was rather important was the turn where he chose to attack with his face into the 4 health minion and the Armor Smith.
Yeah.
Because one of the plays that he could have made in that spot was to trade away the Corcoran. Because if he had done that, he would have kept a lot more health and not lost the second Armor Smith to where an extra Whirlwind would have probably put him at like 45 by that point in the game. So very small decisions can mount up, especially against combo decks where you expect Burn and Burst to come in.
This is also the moment where we are seeing those decks for the first time, like yesterday and today. So I'm sure like players don't have the exact numbers in their minds yet, like how much damage can actually a Worgen deck do. Like I think he definitely wanted to get those Bloodhoof Braves with Varian, as you said. He still had 2 in his deck. Was there maybe a second Fierce Monkey possibly? I'm not sure if we've seen 2 or is he just even playing 2 in the deck. But Bloodhoof Brave was a good possibility. And with 1 taunt, Firebat is not able to go through it and deal 35 damage.
Right. It's one of those situations where Varian Rin is either a win or a loss just on the basis of what it brings out, especially when you've seen the double execute. But about this matchup, we talked about Tempo Warrior, but Dragon Warlock, this is not a Malagos version. We were alluding to the possibility that it would be in, but it's not. One of the things this deck does is it plays for tempo.
It does, but it still has the same problem that the Malagos deck had. Basically, if you don't hit the dragons, the minions don't look that appealing.
Yeah, and right now it's looking like exactly that is happening. He's got a few cute minions, but most of them are requiring at least 1 dragon in the hand, and here we go.
Suddenly.
Dragons. Brian Kilber would be proud.
Yeah, definitely. He will be super happy to see the dragons back in the metagame in some form.
In a non-combo list. Well, at least you're not playing dragons to combo. You're playing dragons because they're dragons and they happen to be the best support for your combo.
Yeah, they're not
instead of being Malagos. Sure. So they're not a part of the problem, right?
They basically try to distract your opponent. It's like, oh my god, the dragon.
Decoy dragon.
In a way. All right, so who do you think has an edge? Because, again, DrHippi has one of those rare advantages that his class can gain health beyond 30. And Leroy, with Power Overwhelmings and Abusive, is a limited amount of damage. So if DrHippi wins on board, gets beyond 30, maybe he will be outside of range for Firebat.
Yeah, one of the interesting spots here is that any AoE effect from DrHippi makes his board excessively weak to, number 1, trades and the possibility of Hellfire or Shadow Flame. So there's no good way to navigate a turn like this one, at least none that will feel very good.
Do you feel like drawing cards, like Ravaging Ghoul into Coin Battle Rage, get 3 cards, get 3 armor, and possibly kill one of the 3/5s?
That's reasonable. I like that play because it actually lets you capitalize on the fact that your frothing is likely to go face at the end of that sequence.
The thing is, like, when you play versus combo decks, they will draw a lot of cards. So most of the time, if you cannot be hyper aggressive, you want to draw cards as well to at least like go on pair with them and have the best quality play every turn when they have their combo turns. But that's why he's going for the battle rate. So I like it, even though he wasn't using the Ravaging Ghoul right there.
Right. The upside of playing the weapon instead of the Ravaging Ghoul is it doesn't really need to be played, and the reason for that is if you play it, you're not killing all his minions, and if you only are damaging the 2 minions you already have on board, then you might as well just use them as trading tools in that spot. But it would have let him push with the frothing to face if he'd wanted, putting a lot of pressure on a Warlock that doesn't have that much healing.
The upside is you can actually coin Karen next turn if you choose to.
Yeah, that's right. It's a very difficult to remove minion.
All right, Bloodhoof Brave. I feel like Bloodhoof Brave actually betrayed DrHippi.
Yeah, last game, Bloodhoof Coward is more like it.
In a way. It could count as like a cow.
As a cow? As a coward? Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, the dankness. This is a good one, though. I'll give it to you. I didn't even spot it, but for a master of word games like you, it must have been too easy.
It was so obvious.
Goodness, no.
All right.
Well, another cow comes down.
Yep, that's a cow. All right. 4/5 that contests the 5/4 really well, and even if you want to Siphon Soul. So he's pulling a trigger on Emperor Thorison already, and he doesn't really have any combo parts. He's trying to play this game more like tempo-oriented, just having a good minion. So this is a value Thorison instead of like combo-genic Thorison.
Right. One of the good things, though, is that the Ravaging Ghoul gives a really good board clear to DrHippi. And even though the Dragon list is supposed to get on the board very well, the fact that it loses so many of its minions to weapons and executes in the early mid game means that getting to that combo point is even harder. So as you mentioned, playing for tempo is a little bit more appealing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool in this deck that you can actually make a choice, and depending on how the game goes on and what's the matchup, you can definitely you do not have to sit on this Leroy in your hand. You can use your minions to go for phase and make those difficult choices. All right, so drawing some cards with Acolyte of Pain, Ravaging Ghoul, damaging the stuff as well. Easy way to deal with Thorison, and also kill the 5/3 with the weapon, gaining a board back, even though DrHippi is at 17 at the moment, so that's quite low versus this bursty deck.
Yeah, it's a bursty deck, but it also needs to assemble its cards. So if you expect to be dead at this point, it means your opponent would have won anyway. That's a really interesting draw there by Firebat.
Especially when combined with Dark Peddler and Twilight Drake, right? Brown Bronzebeard works really well in this deck specifically.
So he's going to opt not to keep the brand for the Peddler, but instead use it for something else. The reasoning is probably I can pick up a 1-drop and play it right away, given that the Peddler's cost was reduced by 1 as well. So you can weave in 2 minions this turn instead of waiting a little bit longer.
You know, seeing that Peddler and remembering the final of Chucky versus Terran Sam in the DreamHack when the Stone Tusk Boar actually worked, I have to ask Firebat like how many times he won with a Stone Tusk Boar from Peddler in this specific deck, because it works so well. Like if you don't get Leroy, you can double PO the boar and then faces it, and it just deals so much damage because you need that charge minion. Yeah,
it's just an alternative way to push damage to the face, which is interesting because you wouldn't think of the Stone Tusk Boar as being relevant.
It is relevant in this deck for sure.
All right, looks like Firebat's gonna have to choose a play here. None of them are really hyper appealing, but that's a card he's happy to see earlier rather than later.
Especially because in the last match it was the last card that he had in deck, so the game would end up so much faster if you would get it earlier.
Yeah. Do you think playing Twilight Drake into Siphon Soul to kill a Bloodhoof is a reasonable line of play? Or do you want to go for the Bran Farseer to stay alive? Oh, Twilight Drake, just play all the battle cries.
Yeah.
Play all the battle cries.
Play all the cards you have. This is a really good board, and I just need to remind everybody that this Tempo Warrior is not running Brawl. Mm-hmm. So you need to remove those minions with your minions and some removal cards, but there's no shield slam. You only have the executes. Fortunately for DrHippi, he actually has Twin in the deck, and he has an okay board. Does he have a way to enrage his Bloodful Brave? Yes, he does. And doesn't matter.
I mean, one of the things he can do is attack into the egg with Bane and spawn the Whelp immediately, then Ghoul, and then use the Bloodhoof to finish off Bran, and then double execute the other minions if he wants to, protecting him from a Shadow Flame, assuming that were a thing Firebat would try to pull off. But it leaves him vulnerable to Twisting Nether, possibly more so even than the prior play. It's going to be a very interesting turn for DrHippi. There's a chance that he wants to get armor, given that he expects combo to hit.
Yeah. When he has the minions. I'm afraid that he might overextend to the Twisting Nether this turn. Which is hard not to do because he gets this turn. Firebat only has 4 cards, so you want to get this opportunity to get on board and have something really good to push with damage next turn. But the Twisting Nether is just going to destroy everything.
Yeah, so he's not going to use his second execute just yet. Of course, there will be better and bigger targets. The upside of this play is that it stacks as much armor as possible this turn. The Bloodhoof is also likely to pick up another attack on the following turn. This Sylvanas with Shadow Flame is not quite good enough, but it's insurance for the following plays that you've got.
Yeah, I think Sylvanas with Shadow Flame is great for the future because the Temple Warrior does run Ragnaros, it has Varian Rin, and it can. And Malkorok will just die, but like basically you can clear the board and steal some stuff. It's absolutely possible.
Yeah, the upside as well of well, it looks like he's going to be using Shadow Flame now. Because the life tap committed him to not playing Twisting Nether. He has the option still of using Siphon Soul if he wants to, just to slow down some of the damage coming in. Power Overwhelming on the egg could be rather amusing.
What about just Siphon Soul in the 5/3 and go face for 2?
Yeah, that's great. That was my initial, like the second line of play. But Power Overwhelming the egg is also really appealing. Because you just end up wiping the board off. He gets the armor, and you keep your 2-1 alive. There's no more ghouls left, right? And there's no Cruel Taskmaster. Could be Blood to Acre, but...
It's probably the best play because you still have this Twisting Nether and you will able to deal some damage. You do have, like, Firebat does have the second power overwhelming in his deck, and Abusive, and Faceless. So as long as he stays ahead and deals damage to DrHippi, DrHippi will not be able to just armor up every turn. And I think like that was the second Armor Smith, right?
We've seen the first one very early in the game, so there is no more crazy armor gain. What is interesting, though, is that Firebat chose to use a power overwhelming rather early, which DrHippi may read as a, I was desperate, or on the flip side, I don't need this to win because I've already got the second one in hand.
Yeah.
So it's really a matter of figuring out exactly how DrHippi reads into this. And using that Twisting Nether to its maximum efficiency is going to be primordial there for Firebat, because I was going to say, if he uses it here and the follow-up turn is Varian Rin, then he's out of options, really, unless he picks up some kind of Shadow Flame or whatever Varian brings out is not a threat. But if Ragnaros shows up...
That would be... Well, if Ragnaros shows up, you probably play Sylvanas, but it's highly possible that Varian does not bring any minions at all and just draws 3 cards.
Okay, looks like a Arathi. And that was it? That was it.
That wasn't exciting at all.
Well, I mean, it was the armies of Stormwind. Now we're hiring orcs because we're short on staff. We didn't even pay Edwin Van Cleef when he redid the entire city, so yeah, we're just broke. You know, alliance problems.
I guess. It's probably because he's working for Garage. He's like, yeah, I'm bringing the armies of Stormwind.
Yeah, dude, I'm totally bringing him over. And then just like, I've got one peon thing with the weapon. How do you feel about that?
No weapon even. Just forgot.
He's like, it had an axe, but...
Short in budget.
All right, looks like we're going to see the Blood to Acre, which is actually pretty good here, given that there's no more Twisting Nether. You've seen a Hellfire. You've seen pretty much everything, right?
Yeah.
This is pressure beyond pressure, because you keep the Blood to Acre to enable the Grom, and you're able to push for lethal next turn.
I think Firebat is in trouble. DrHippi is aggressive enough to keep pressuring Firebat. He is still more or less healthy at 24. Firebat doesn't have all the combo pieces he wants, so he will fight back.
That looks like the game to me. I feel like Firebat knows it's coming. Firebat is fully aware that there's going to be damage coming in. So I have to go back to that turn where he chose the life tap instead of playing Twisting Nether. Was that cautious enough? Because with this win, DrHippi will be able to just move on after playing what looked to us like one of the weaker spots against all the control decks that were being run by Firebat.
Yeah, but it's still a warrior, so it is an aggressive deck. Looking at the rest of the DrHippi's lineup, Zoo should be alright to win versus whatever Firebat is throwing at him. A Freeze Mage will be delicate because, especially if they go like Freeze Mage into Freeze Mage, I think DrHippi has more of a control version. Might be even running Reno, but I remember seeing a lot of burst from him as well. So he might have a close version to Firebat's, but I'm not sure if he has such an OTK version if we've called Sorcerers.
Right. One of the things that's very difficult to do is if you're trying to play a lineup with nothing but combo decks, it's very difficult sometimes to get the perfect setup. Firebat is experienced enough that he can do it. And in the Mage versus Mage matchup, which we're going to see right now, it comes down to those setups. And they're very important. And they're difficult to pull off if you don't know the matchup inside and out.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I wonder what difference will Ice Block do. I believe DrHippi is also playing Ice Barriers because he's playing like a more standard version to try to defend himself. But and a Doomsayer as well, right? But Firebat has so much burst.
Well, it's also about, you do have to find Emperor Thorson at some point. Like, let's be honest here. There needs to be the combo pieces in hand for it to do anything. And very often in those matchups, it's about who draws them first, which is why I would tend to give Firebat a bit of an edge in terms of the amount of card draw that he's running.
I wonder if DrHippi is playing the Reno Jackson version.
The Malagos Reno? Pyroblast being there, I don't know.
You might be playing Pyroblast Reno. I think in the top 16 DreamHack Austin, there were 2 Reno Freeze Mages, and one was running Pyroblast, and one was running Malagos. It was Peyton and Frozen. So you do have that choice. The big question is, how do you split your doubles, and what doubles do you play, and what singles do you play in a deck?
Yeah, I guess it's really like there's still a lot of shifting that can be done with Freeze Mage. Funny enough, they lost Mad Scientist, and it seems like we have more Freeze Mage lists than ever.
Yeah.
Which I would have expected it to be the other way around, but look at that double Ice Barrier for DrHippi, and Firebat is accurately not triggering the Ice Barrier. He hasn't even attacked with a Novice. Does not want to. There's no point to attacking since he's never getting in 8 damage worth of attacks.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what he wants to do, he will never attack. He just wants to get the combo parts and be able to get DrHippi to 1 health with the spells. Hope there is no Reno Jackson, and then just ping the ice blocks and win through that.
At the very end, exactly. Both players have Emperor Thorson. One of the things that's interesting is Firebat's ability to play Cold Lateral Cult to aggressively mill cards out of DrHippi's deck. It usually doesn't matter much. It almost never matters, in fact. But when it does, it can take away a statistically unlikely important card. Well, the Snow Machine Adventure is coming down, right?
Yeah. At this time, Firebat just wants to draw all. Actually, he's going for Oracle already. Is he burning a card there? I don't think so.
I think the idea is to weave in all the pings in the world. Because back to the setup of winning with Mage, is if you're weaving in the pings, then it gets a lot easier to combo your opponent down. And that right there is trouble.
Yeah, that's the first Thorson for DrHippi, and he does have a lot of burst in his hand.
Yeah, Firebat picked up a really good card here. He was otherwise going to have to either ignore the Thorson, which simply does not make any sense, or play Frostbolt Ice Lance on the Thorson, which again, not something you want to be doing.
Yeah, that would be terrible. But at this point, I have to give a big advantage to DrHippi because in the previous Freeze Mage versus Freeze Mage matchups, the Freeze Mage that wins is the Freeze Mage that pinged the Ice Block first. So if DrHippi is just going to start dealing that damage to Firebat and is able to ping, just like get him to ping range and just ping the Ice Blocks, he's going to win. Firebat doesn't have any heal in his deck.
Right, Firebat has no healing, but what he's got is spell damage galore, which DrHippi, from what we see here, number one, he's got 2 dead draws, or 2 dead cards, the Ice Barrier, Ice Block, very hard to weave in. So he's going to have to start throwing everything right now to get to that Pyroblast at the very end, with ideally 1 health left over.
Do it Thorson, you do Thorson, and you hit a lot of damage here already.
And look at that. I mean, DrHippi wanted to go face, but does he want to go face now?
Yeah,
this comes out. What do you do? What's your reaction? Maybe you stick to it. I mean, we see here there's 9 damage between Fireball and Forgotten Torch. Frostbolt Ice Lance for another 7, so we've got 16 there with Pyroblast to top it all off. You have to...
How much damage can you deal this turn if you're DrHippi?
He could deal 17 if he just pushes everything, but I mean that means he's not remotely close to putting his opponent to 1 for the constant pings. So I think fireballing the Emperor may be necessary.
Fireball the Emperor and then play Acolyte of Pain?
Sure.
Like, you definitely need to draw some cards, and one of those cards being the second Ice Block. Firebat does have an Ice Block online, and he has a second Ice Block in his hand. So, like, I was talking about pinging Ice Blocks, but if you don't get an Ice Block, you just die with the ping. So you do need to have
there we go. He's going to pop this as soon as he possibly can. He recognizes in his deck, our left, Forgotten Torch, the Roaring Torch, and another Fireball. Even if he pops his opponent at 6, he thinks he can get away with this. I mean, that takes balls, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is a great decision, and DrHippi is one of the guys that played Freeze Mage with excellence in the European Championship, so he knows how to play those delicate matchups. He does have Acolyte of Pain as well, and
to draw, yeah.
Yeah.
So again, let's not trigger Ice Barrier.
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to do that. So you Pyroblast face, pop the block, and then you have a chance to draw the Fireball. You have the chance to draw the Roaring Torch, as you said, and you do have 2 draws because you do have your Acolyte. So this is the first Ice Block being popped by DrHippi, and Firebat will be forced to play his second ice block and hope there is no way that it goes down.
Yeah, lucky for Firebat now, at least he can start pushing some damage to face. There's actually a net damage gain if he just throws everything he's got to his opponent's face. So it's not quite over, but again, it comes down to whether or not DrHippi can find either the Frostbolt to accompany this Ice Lance, a Fireball, or Roaring Torch. I think that's pretty much all his outs, right?
Yeah,
He's got
possibly.
3 cards he's looking for. 3 cards.
Firebat definitely needs to get that ice block on, and he's getting 2 damage by attacking, right?
Yeah, he has a net gain there, yeah, of 2 damage.
Yeah.
So Firebat is looking at drawing as much as possible, which is, in my mind, the right play. Cold Source Fur is a disgustingly powerful card in this spot. He can unleash all the spells.
He can play
in this
everything.
spot. He can play
doesn't
every
pop the
single
block.
spell. From what I gather, it should with the Frostbolt double Ice Lance, yeah.
Yeah. So he is popping the block in return, and now DrHippi, he needs an ice block of his own to be able to survive next turn.
Yeah, and back to what we were talking about, right? This is what the mages, the mage matchups tend to come down to. Who pops the first block ends up winning. But the thing is, DrHippi not only needs the block, but he needs to pop his opponents. It's not enough to just get the block, unless you Blizzard on the back of it, but...
Yeah, and
Frostbolt
the
Ice
problem
Lance?
is, that can pop the block,
That
but
could win, actually, because if there's no spells, he attacks. Does it work?
Well, can he just like still Acolyte, ping it, get an ice block, and then pop the block? No, he will be one mana short.
I might just go everything face and then Frost Nova. I mean Blizzard, sorry. Because
Sure.
you're popping him at 2 and then you Blizzard twice, which means the only way you die is if there's a top deck source of damage, or over 2 turns, of course.
With the pings.
With the pings, so.
Yeah, that was actually an excellent draw right there that enabled him to have a chance. But Arcane Intellect from the top, he just needs 1 damage. Frost Nova is not it.
Oh, and
Fireball
that
does
is it.
finish it.
Oh,
man.
These combo
That was really-
matchups.
That was closer than I thought, and it was super exciting because on both sides they were like on edge with all those like fireworks. Second ice block for DrHippi would win this, but he just didn't have it.
It's one of those things where the way that Firebat's deck is built, because it draws so much, it has the edge. And, we saw the double Ice Barrier for DrHippi, which unfortunately clogged up a lot of his hand. The play that he made, where he went all in on the Pyroblast, despite the fact that it put his opponent at 6 after it, was still recognizing that, for the most part, he could get away with, having at least outs. Because if he didn't commit to that, there were a lot of cards that he found that he just never won the game with.
There was still a chance that Firebat would not be able to walk the block from... Sure. He still had a lot of health, and there was that small chance. And if he gets 1 more turn, he just wins. But Firebat had it exactly when he needed it, and still really well played by both players.
All right, so we'll be hopping on into the Dragon Warlock from Firebat versus the Mage from DrHippi. So one of the things that Firebat's deck does well is put pressure quickly. What it doesn't do well is it doesn't have Ironbeak Owl anymore. So Doomsayer works. That's it.
It has some heal because there is the Farseer with Brown Bronzebeard, but there are no heal bots. And Healbot was one of the cards that was actually giving Warlock a good chance at this matchup. But right now it might be tough. And DrHippi is well equipped to deal with the minions that are being played. He has Doomsayer to stall a bit. He has the Blizzard and Flamestrike in his hand, and he has card draw. So I think DrHippi has a good hand.
Yeah, DrHippi has a hand that has card draw in it, and I think just on that basis alone, it's enough to say that it's a better than average hand, even when you're playing against the Steppe Warlock. Firebat decided, I'm out. I don't need to play this. The chair can do it.
Yeah, actually, he just left. Oh, he's back. He's like refilling the butt cup. The butt cup. Do we call
You think it's coffee, but it's not.
The plot thickens. As his coffee. Brown Bronzebeard. So he will not be able to Like after, I was thinking Brown Bronzebeard and Farseer after Alexstrasza, maybe, because Alexstrasza hits you, and then you go up to 21 and maybe do something with her, even though he does not play the Big Game Hunter. So from my perspective, I would say Firebat is in trouble, especially.
Well, I was gonna say the opposite. Actually, I was gonna say the Brand Bronzebeard, because there was a choice on turn 2, right, to play the Peddler, but he opted to tap, and that is a commitment to Brand Bronzebeard on 3 and Peddler on 4, because you get 2 1-drops, and because they can be very impactful, like double power overwhelming. Those cards end up giving you a lot of reach, but this is not what Firebat was looking for. Oh no, poor Firebat.
Are we ever going to see the Stone Tusk Boar, Noxious?
Not today. Not at this point, at least. Poor Firebat.
Yeah, those cards are absolutely useless.
Good pressure.
So yeah, like I feel Ice Block is one of the cards that's going to win this match because Firebat will have to get enough damage to get the mage lower, but he will not be able to OTK the mage because of the Ice Block. And then if DrHippi just plays another Ice Block, he should be able to kill Firebat, especially because also Firebat will help DrHippi to get lower. Like he is life tapping a lot.
Yeah, one of the things that Firebat was banking on with his brand play was exactly what didn't happen, which is find Soulfires, find Power Overwhelmings, put so much pressure on the mage that I can steal a very early Ice Block and then follow it up with more burst of my own. But as it stands with the Possessed Villager and the Argent Squire, even though they're sticky minions, as they don't die to ping immediately, it's not sufficient.
Yeah. So DrHippi is what did he play? Was it an Ice Block or barrier?
I believe that was the first barrier.
First barrier. Sure. It doesn't look bad for him. Like he still has like Flame Strike for next turn if he wants to. Blizzard not being terrible.
He's thinking of cycling the coil on his own Possessed Villager. He's exposing himself to Flame Strike and losing like 1 damage, but it does not really matter too much.
He cannot get the combo cards. Like he has no Power Overwhelmings, he has no Abusive Sergeants, and no Leroy still. So he's really slow, and you cannot be slow versus Freeze Mage. Freeze Mage is going to Alexstrasza you on turn 9 or 8 with the coin, and then just kill you. And there is enough burst to just win the game if Alexstrasza drops on 8.
Right. One of the things though is that there is no Ice Block. So as dire as it looks for Firebat, all it takes is for him to whiff on his burst as much as DrHippi's whiffing on the blocks. And just on that basis alone, he can find himself a cheap win. An unfair win against a deck that is meant to draw into those secrets.
True, but this Flame Strike is so juicy that it will definitely buy DrHippi some time to get more cards. And even without Ice Block, if he has an Ice Barrier online and around like 20 health, he should be in a good spot.
Technically, and this Ice Block is exactly what DrHippi wanted to see here, because he's setting it up just before Alexstrasza. And he gets himself... He's got Roaring Torch, double Fireball in hand. So with a Frostbolt. It's lethal, assuming he just sets it up, right?
I feel like it's basically it, right? Because you do play Ice Block, Ice Barrier, and do whatever this turn. Next turn, you just Alexstrasza. And then on turn 10, you finish them off. So a pretty good spot for DrHippi. He just needs to think, like, is there anything that will disrupt this strategy if you go for it? Like there is some damage incoming with the Drakes, but Firebat should not have any means to be able to remove the Ice Block. The only problem would be for DrHippi if Ice Block is being popped this turn. So he was probably counting how much damage can Firebat get with a Dream Hand, and Dream Hand being Leroy, double PO, abusive. Because there was no Thorison, he would not be able to do Faceless with Leroy and with the buffs. Noxious is gone for a while. He will be back in just a moment, guys. But yeah, he just bailed because this game is over. It was not possible for Firebat to deal with that Ice Block. Now DrHippi is protected. Even though he's getting Leroy, there is 15 damage in his hand. He has mana for it. Double Fireball and Frostbolt is finishing the game. There is no Lotheb and no way to heal himself. Oh, there actually is a Siphon Soul. So
right,
it's
Siphon
not
Soul
over yet.
Siphon Soul allows you to be at 18, which is slightly out of reach of exactly what you expect. Without Emperor Thorson having been played, you feel like you have a window of opportunity to rush him down. But, you know...
Yeah, it's still over because of the ice block and enough burst. There's another torch. So I believe like Firebat has no more ways to heal, right? If we've seen Farseer, we've seen Siphon Soul. There shouldn't be anything else. Dark Peddler into Voodoo Doctor.
That doesn't save him in this spot, but it was one of the ways. One of the things that I was anticipating in this list initially was maybe an Alex Straza, right? If there had been an Alex Straza, there was a slight chance, because you can use it offensively to set up that combo, or defensively.
Stick that. It actually engaged DrHippi to smile. It's like, hey.
That's a first. We haven't seen him smile too much so far. He seems very stressed out.
You know, I think he's just not really that stressed out, but it's just his facial expression. He's just calm and just taking it easy.
He's a calm guy. Well, it looks like they're both tied, and going in the next match with the Zoo from DrHippi and the combo log from Firebat. So one of the interesting things that we haven't seen in a while is this type of Warlock from Firebat versus Zoo. And I would like to say that because of the way that it plays, instead of being, all cycle and Reno Jackson Hail Mary, because it's got a consistent minion onboard game plan, it's better against Zoo than Reno.
You think it's better than Reno?
I would say so, yeah. They tend to have a lot more bulky minions, and even though Zoo gets good trades, at some point they probably run out of damage to push. But with a hand like this, yeah, you know what?
Not like this.
This is not good for Firebat.
Yeah, I think like actually with this version being super aggressive with Ravguard and Soulfire and Leroy, like what the Reno log does, it does have Reno Jackson. So it fights, it takes damage, it fights back. And when Zoo is about to win, more or less, you slam Reno Jackson and you just reset the board where Zoo is like half through their deck. And Firebat doesn't have the luxury of that powerful heal, so he only has the Farseer and Siphon Soul. He does have the tool. He has the Shadow Flame, and he has better minions than Reno Lock. But if the Zoo is aggressive enough, he might just get comboed out with the leader.
So the only difference, so all that had to happen here is for this Flame Imp to be any other one drop, and I think Firebat was in an amazing position. But this being a Flame Imp means that Firebat cannot stay on this board, and is going to get pushed off, hit in the face repeatedly by the Wrathguard, which is one of the highest attack 2-drops in the game. Probably the highest one, in fact, as far as the stats that it has. So it's just very tough for any deck that doesn't cheat his way to a brawl, let's say, to come back on.
I would like to remind you of a Millhouse Mana Storm.
I mean, the thing is, Millhouse is... Well... Is Millhouse playable right now? Here's a question.
No.
To pose to everyone. If you ever ask, is Millhouse playable? The only answer is no.
Yeah, I do agree that Ravguard is the highest attack playable 2-drop. That's for sure.
Yeah, Succubus is unfortunately not good enough. A lot of people have been trying the... I don't even know her name, but the Librarian. I think the Warlock 2-drop that draws and discards does both.
Darkshire Librarian, I believe.
I believe that's the one. So I feel like that card has its place, but it would have had to be a 3/3 at the very least to make its way into the game.
I think the problem is that whenever you discard a card, you don't want to do it that much because you have so many good quality cards that it can disrupt your gameplay. So it's better to play something with the lower stats than actually risk disrupting your situation. And she's also like expensive as a minion. So it's better to run a Soulfire as we've seen. And DrHippi is just going for face.
But DrHippi might not find the win though. Like it's just close enough right now that I could see a world in which Firebat gets away with this. But this draw is very important. That is not necessarily what DrHippi is looking for, but it is a sticky minion. That is not one of the good ones.
Yeah, but it's still like +2 attack to the Darkshire Constellman, so it will be 3/7 +2 9 damage, putting Firebat on at 4. 8. If he goes full phase, right? If he goes full phase, it's basically...
I think you're putting him at 4.
Yeah.
Which is enough for your Soulfire or Peddlers to win.
Or is it 5?
Or Leroy.
2-6.
Well, I'm looking at 8 on board plus another 2, so 10. So he's gonna be on. Yeah.
Math. He's going to get a lot of damage.
Like he's either going down. Yeah, I think he's going down to. If he makes trades, he's playing it safe around Shadow Flame, which again, because of the awkward hand he's got, might be okay.
Sure.
Yeah, the trade also gives him just as much value.
Yeah, that trade was cool because basically it's the same one attack. Shadow Flame is a card.
All right. Well, here we go. This is basically the only turn that determines. Like, I think the next 2 turns are going to determine everything because if Firebat finds a dragon, Twilight Guardian taunts up. Good luck with that.
There is still a Leroy in the deck and
Soulfire.
second Soulfire.
Peddlers. Uh-oh, that is not either of them. And Siphon Soul comes in. That's putting him out of range of Leroy.
Yeah, actually, that Shadow Flame can turn around the game, so it might be tough. Do you still play them?
I mean, you
have minions.
You must.
DrHippi is he is stressed now for sure. And there's a second Siphon Soul. Wow.
Well, let's do it. Let's start Siphon Souling that board. I mean, you do Siphon Soul.
Yeah, you
just
do.
to avoid Leroy.
Exactly. Like you will go at to 7, so this means you will be able to survive Leroy, and you do have a Siphon Soul for next turn as well. And you do push some damage. You have a power overwhelming, and you have a Leroy yourself. PO. Well.
Yeah. A little bit too late. And even if he picks up Leroy here, it's not. Oh my goodness! Everything is bad.
No,
So-
it's actually good, unless there is a dragon. If there is no dragon, he has it, right? Because even with the Siphon Soul, like, Leroy with power just wins the
Sure.
game.
But DrHippi is thinking these draws are just coming out of order. Nothing I get seems to happen at the right time. In this case, he's still going to get away with the victory, I believe.
Yeah, it seems like, can Firebat tap into something? Like, I think if he
He
taps...
could tap into a dragon,
Yeah.
Sure.
But now, like, DrHippi is like, oh, well, I won? What?
I guess I drew well. Leroy! And Firebat nodding in acknowledgement of the fact that he just got rolled over by Wrath Guards.
Yeah, killed by Ravguard. That has to feel bad. But yeah, man, like Leroy PO, it works. And right now it seems like metagame is combogenic. Even though like this zoo is not a combo deck per se, like you do have a big burst incoming with PO, Leroy, and Soulfires.
So here's what's interesting here. DrHippi has the Rogue and needs to win twice. Needs to win once, that is, against either of the 2 decks. Rogues are notoriously good at stealing wins. Now, I have a question regarding the Malagos Rogue versus typical Rogue matchup.
Yeah.
The Cold Blood Rogue. I would say that the one that gets on the board the best should have the highest win rate, and that would go to the Cold Blood variant.
Yeah, I do agree. You have a big chance for an Edwin that can't be answered. And, you know, Firebat's Rogue doesn't have taunts, so he doesn't want to go for a Rogue versus Rogue mirror yet. He continues to play with the... I want to call it the Malagos Warlock, man. Can we just call it no Malagos Warlock?
We can call it Dragon Lock instead of Mally Lock. Maybe that's why people used to call it Mally Lock, because it was never a Dragon Lock. It was just literally like there's dragons, but they serve one purpose only. Malagos. Yeah, just like distraction, decoys. Let me get to my end game. So it's just probably correct to call it Dragon Lock.
Leroy Dragonlock,
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, I think the name makes sense. Like, as we talked before, you just name a couple of cards, and then you have the name of the deck. It does have Leroy, it does have dragons, and it's a Warlock. Okay, so
good pressure there from Firebat. Honestly, this is a very good opener, and there's no removal right now for DrHippi. It's gonna come down to this Tomb Pillager.
Yeah, DrHippi has an awkward hand for now. He doesn't. He can't even leverage the preparation in a correct way. Like, he would like to have a Shadow Strike with it as well. Harrison Jones is an interesting tech card. It will be useless in this matchup, at least. So Firebat is having a really nice curve, and Next turn he can go for Azure Drake or whatever. DrHippi is in trouble. So you can kill the 3/6 with the 5/4 and a weapon attack. You will take 3 damage. And I talked about Firebat not having heals. You know, like he has double Siphon Soul and Farseer, but DrHippi has even less heal. Like he might have 1 Farseer, or he might not even play a Farseer at all in his deck.
I think we've seen 1 Farseer earlier, but it was the only one that he had, and I think that's the trend for most rogue decks now. It used to be, you know, you play 1 heal bot, and now it's just nothing. Like you've got nothing to play. It's Farseer or bust as far as healing options go. Right now, one of the cards Firebat wants to find is Mortal Coil. That would be probably one of the most awesome ones for him to find here. Do you think we'll ever see a Brand Gettysand? Brand Jouster? Yeah, or do you just Twilight Drake Gettysand?
Oh yeah, okay. Just to like have double stat.
Yeah, like double stats on your 1/2.
Not this turn. But I like putting some more power on board, even though Gettysand Jouster failed. I feel like every time I see a Joust, it just fails.
Yeah, I've never seen it win, unless I'm playing the Tavern Brawl this week. I saw a guy playing Gettysand Jousters and Brands. That's all his deck was.
What?
That was all his deck. And I got demolished because he opened up with double Gettysand, and he won both because I was running target dummies.
Please. No, just play Soulfire and Head of Draxes, or
that was fun for half a game, and then I got bored. But one of the interesting things about this position for DrHippi is there's enough damage on the opponent's side of the board that you have to respect it, but you don't have a Gettysand Auctioneer, and so you feel like you should be pushing for damage, right? Something like the Fade Leaf Toxin can give stealthier.
I think, like, from DrHippi's perspective, that the best part of this position is that Firebat is running out of cards, but he does have Life Tap, and
you have to go all in, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to race, because Firebat might not have enough cards to be able to kill you. You're still at 21, even though there is 8 damage on board. Leroy, PO, those cards will have to come at some point.
That was an interesting decision. I did not expect the trade with the weapon. I was thinking maybe he would just go full face, because that deck does not contain Defenders of Argus. So
that's probably because he doesn't have the kill next turn. He needs to kill Firebat over the course of 2 turns.
Does he not have the kill with Leroy and Blood Thistle Toxin? I think he did.
So how much damage is there? 18?
He's got 21 right now that I can tell.
Oh, so if you actually not kill the guy, he will...
Well, yeah, he has lethal now, I think, right? Leroy plus Blood Thistle is 9, 9, and 3 with a weapon. Yes, I think so. I think that's the one, so... There is
one
lethal.
Is Fade Leaf. One is Fade Leaf, and the second is Blood Thistle. Isn't Blood Thistle like 2 damage? It's only 2 damage to...
No, Fire Bloom Toxin is 2 damage to a target. Blood Thistle... Blood Thistle is either the comeback to your hand, or the 3 damage on the Cold Blood.
I think it's...
Oh, yes, you're right. It's the Shadow Step.
Yeah, so he's basically short. So if you actually...
He didn't have... If he didn't trade, he had the lethal.
Yeah, he had that.
I'm really surprised by that. I thought maybe that Toxin was a 3 attack, because that's the only reason I could see him make that trade.
And if there's...
that is... Wow, okay.
I think he's still...
Well, he's in the race, but it's very risky. I mean, this entire line of play was... What did it play around? That's what I want to figure out right now. That is what I need to know.
This is awkward, because Firebat can actually survive next turn. Like, DrHippi's set it up in a way that he kills with Leroy a weapon attack and the 5/4, but with the Siphon
he kills with Leroy, which is the coin, right? Because you play Leroy, and then you're on 7, so you bring it back, then you coin out Leroy again for 12. So he is setting up lethal. But I'm just trying to sort out...
what happened there, right?
Right, on the previous turn. But there is... No.
Wait, what? Did he miss lethal? No. Yes.
5?
It was 12.
He had lethal.
Yeah.
He missed
had
it.
Like 6 from Leroy. This is 5 mana, and he has 3 mana. So basically, for what? No, wait. No, he didn't miss it because he didn't have enough mana. Like the toxin is 1 mana. It's
Oh,
not
that's
Shadow
right.
Step.
Okay, yeah, I'm a retard. I think everybody knew that. I was thinking, okay, this is not a Shadow Step. Goodness
Yes,
gracious.
it's not. It's a Blood
It
Thistle toxin.
isn't a Shadow Step. Good lord. As I was looking at this, I'm like, this works. No, I keep forgetting toxins are not like blanket copies. Anyway, Firebat right now is looking.
He has a next turn. He has a next turn. I mean, this
Sure.
turn.
So DrHippi set up a lethal 3 turns ahead of time.
I'm still confused about that attack though. Like, attack into a minion.
I think it was incorrect, but overall he still takes the game, so it didn't end up mattering too much. Given that there's no healing in Firebat's deck,
And
that
he takes the match. Yeah, he actually takes the match, Noxious. 4-2 versus Firebat. Firebat defeated for the first time. He's not eliminated from the tournament, but we said DrHippi has a chance versus those combo decks, but he did extremely well.
I think the Rogue was also a really good deck for him to have here because every single thing that, every single combo deck tends to try to play slow, and you're forcing them to play quick, a lot quicker than they're comfortable with.
Yeah. My prediction for this match was 4-2 in favor of Firebat because I felt like he will be able to just pull through with combo decks, and DrHippi will not be able to win with the Warrior, as we said in the beginning. I wasn't sure about Freeze Mage ever winning as well versus combo decks, but apparently Firebat wasn't able to win with this Warlock because I think the Warlock failed the most. It was the deck that lost around 3 matches.
And you'll find that deck is the least combo heavy deck that Firebat brought. It is the deck that tries to play for the board, and perhaps that wasn't enough in this spot to probably beat the other tempo decks that were brought. And we have to say one thing, the Leroy Jenkins, I think, was the big card for DrHippi because that's the one that won him his 2 games in the Zoo as well as in the Rogue match.
He was really surprised when he actually got it. Like, he got Leroy and Power, and you said that this is all in a bad sequence because he didn't have lethal right there, but then Firebat wasn't able to protect himself, and he just took the game. So, DrHippi, he got picked up by Virtus Pro, and he was in the final of the European Championship. He's just continuing to prove that he is a great player, worth invites, and just winning versus the previous world champion is a nice feat. All right, I think we're back. So
sure, let's be back, I guess.
Let's be back, right? So we went silent for a moment. I'm not sure what you guys actually were seeing as our weird faces or whatever. So this was the 3rd game of the day, the third match of the day, and Firebat is going down to the losers bracket. The next match that we have for you is Green Sheep versus Pavel. So give us some time to prepare the guys. I will not say it's a short break. It might be a long, very long, extended break. Hopefully not. But see you guys in a moment.
Of the ones from long ago. There's an evil that's been dreaming, but now it's softly screaming. From the darkness, their power will grow. Their voices are made of poison. When you listen, you are sure to be disturbed. You can lock your doors. You can say your prayers. No creature can resist their wicked words. Never mind, no need to worry. That's all just a story of the whispers of the old. Peace.